Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here at Lansdowne Park today. Normally, folks might be here to see the Red Blacks play or to shop at the farmers market on Sunday morning. But right now, there's another great reason for people to come by, and that's to get their vaccine. A few minutes ago, Mayor Watson and I stopped in at the clinic. Even under the masks, you could see the smiles all around. So I want to say thank you to everyone, not just here, but across the country, who are doing their part by getting vaccinated. And also a huge shout out to the nurses, doctors, volunteers and staff who are doing such amazing work at getting doses into arms. Aujourd'hui, ce matin, j'ai reçu ma deuxième dose, moi aussi. Je me sens bien. On se sent surtout plus en sécurité et extrêmement optimiste par rapport à l'été qui s'en vient et à l'automne qui suivra. En se faisant vacciner pleinement, on aide à protéger non seulement soi-même, mais les gens autour de nous aussi. Comme tout le monde, j'ai bien hâte de commencer à revoir tous mes amis, toute la famille. C'est ce qui nous attend une fois qu'on sera tous vaccinés. On va en finir avec cette pandémie au Canada. On va y arriver parce que tout le monde est en train de faire leur part quand c'est leur tour de se faire vacciner. Le Canada est au premier rang mondial en termes de vaccination. Près de 80% des Canadiens éligibles ont reçu leur première dose et plus de 35% ont aussi reçu leur deuxième dose. Et on voit à tous les jours, ces chiffres sont en train d'augmenter. Il faut maintenir ce rythme. En date d'aujourd'hui, un total de plus de 50 millions de doses de vaccins sont arrivées au Canada et d'ici la fin du mois, on va en avoir reçu 68 millions. Autrement dit, on est en très bonne voie d'avoir un bon été et un automne encore meilleur. We're on the right track to end this pandemic in Canada. That said, we're not quite out of the woods yet. Let's take a look at what's going on in Yukon. Despite being at over 86% of eligible people with a first dose and over 76% second dose fully vaccinated, they're facing their biggest spike in cases right now since the pandemic began. This is a reminder that we all have to keep being careful and get as many people vaccinated as soon as possible. Minister LeBlanc has spoken with Premier Silver, and we're working with the territory on whatever we can do to help. Peu importe où vous vivez, on sera là pour vous pendant la crise. Que ce soit à cause de votre deuxième dose de vaccin ou parce que vous pouvez rouvrir votre petite entreprise, il y a bien des moments d'être content en ce moment. Et ça, c'est important. Mais on ne peut pas oublier que pour beaucoup trop de gens au pays, les dernières semaines ont été difficiles. I know we're all thinking of British Columbians right now in Lytton, where wildfires have devastated the town and across the province with the extreme heat wave. Yesterday, I talked to both Premier Horgan and Acting Chief Haugen of Lytton First Nation. And later today, I'll speak with Lytton's Mayor, Polderman. We are here as a federal government, as partners for whatever support people need. We're standing with the people of Lytton to rebuild, and we're continuing to work with the province to keep all British Columbians safe. Later today, I'll be convening the Incident Response Group with ministers from my team to address the needs of communities in BC hit by wildfires and extreme weather, and to take a look at what we expect might be a very hot, very dry summer with many wildfires. As we do this, ministers will, of course, stay in close touch with all their provincial colleagues. On Wednesday, news also came in from BC that more unmarked graves had been found near a former residential school. To everyone in Ktunaxa Nation and to all survivors, families, and Indigenous people, we're here for you. I can't imagine your grief and your pain. We will work with you day in and day out on whatever you need to heal. On that note, yesterday I had the chance to speak with Phyllis Webstad. Phyllis is the founder and executive director of the Orange Shirt Society, which raises awareness about the legacy of the residential school system. In fact, it was her story as a survivor that started the Orange Shirt Initiative. She told me how important it is that all Canadians know what happened at residential schools. I want to recognize Phyllis's courage and leadership. People like her right across the country are leading the way forward. They're sharing their stories, and we must continue to listen. We must acknowledge the truth, and we must stand as partners and allies in building a better future. Chaque fois qu'on fait la découverte de nouvelles tombes anonymes, on doit devenir encore plus déterminé à faire mieux en tant que pays. Non seulement on doit réparer les torts du passé, mais on doit aussi mettre fin aux injustices qui existent encore de nos jours. C'est inacceptable que les Premières Nations, les Inuits et les Métis vivent encore du racisme et de la discrimination dans nos systèmes de santé. C'est inacceptable que la mort de Joyce Echequan soit survenue ici, dans un pays comme le Canada. Tout le monde doit pouvoir aller à l'hôpital ou voir un médecin en étant certain de recevoir les soins et le respect qu'il mérite. Alors, en partenariat avec les peuples autochtones, on agit pour que ça change. Plus tôt cette semaine, le ministre Miller et la ministre Hajdu ont annoncé qu'on va investir, entre autres, pour améliorer la sécurité des patients, pour mieux adapter les services, les services sur le plan culturel et pour augmenter la représentation des Autochtones dans les professions de la santé. En travaillant avec les communautés autochtones et avec nos partenaires du domaine de la santé, ainsi que tous les ordres de gouvernement, on prend des mesures concrètes pour mettre fin au racisme envers les Autochtones dans nos systèmes de santé. There's still a long way to go, but in the past 5 years, we have made progress. We've lifted 108 long-term drinking water advisories and invested in classrooms for hundreds of communities. Last week, we brought the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples into law, and we're working with Indigenous partners to ensure we meet the Declaration's objectives. And, as of last Monday, our new citizenship oath recognizes Indigenous rights. We must continue this work, because each step forward brings us closer to a better, stronger country for everyone. Merci tout le monde. Je suis maintenant content de prendre vos questions. Bonjour.
Morning, Mr. Prime Minister. Chris Nash, CTV News. Will you be sending in the army to Lytton? Will there be funding and support and compensation? What is the federal government doing exactly to help the people in BC?
I have spoken with Premier Horgan yesterday. Our ministers have been talking directly with their partners, whether it's... excuse me. Yeah.
Hey, why are you selling us out?
We have to recognize that there are people who are hurting and have been hurting. And that's exactly why we need to continue to pledge ourselves every day to do better. What we're going to focus on now is working with British Columbia, working with the chiefs, working with partners on ensuring that we're there for the communities in Lytton and across the province that are facing difficulty. Minister Sajjan has been in touch with his colleagues out west. Minister Blair has been talking to Minister Farnworth. And I've been talking with Premier Horgan. We will continue to engage directly and prepare to be there to support people as necessary, as much as possible. That's part of what the Incident Response Group meeting is going to be on this afternoon, how we can be there to help, and we will continue to be there. Okay. Nous allons être là pour aider en Colombie-Britannique et à travers le pays. Nous allons être partenaires au gouvernement provincial. On a parlé avec le premier ministre Horgan, on a parlé avec les ministres impliqués. Nous allons continuer d'être là pour aider à Lytton et partout à travers la Colombie-Britannique et l'Ouest canadien. C'est pour ça qu'on va se rencontrer en tant que ministre cet après-midi pour parler justement de cet enjeu.
We're now expecting more than 68 million vaccines by the end of July. Will you now commit to moving up by September timeline and make sure that everybody who wants a second dose will get one by the end of July?
We know that we are on track to having everyone vaccinated who wants it by the end of summer. With 68 million doses coming in by the end of July, that's mathematically enough for everyone in Canada to get 2 doses. But we know, for example, that the spacing between the doses means that people who get their first dose now or a few days ago won't be eligible until later in the summer for their second dose. And we need to continue to follow the science. But from the beginning, we made a commitment to Canadians that we'd be there to have their backs, we'd be there to support Canadians with vaccines, and we've done exactly that. We will continue to be there to support Canadians every step of the way, and quite frankly, the way people are stepping up on getting vaccinated has been extraordinary and inspiring. I look forward to seeing all Canadians vaccinated as quickly as possible so we can get back to living normal as possible in a global pandemic lives here in Canada as we work hard to build back our economy and build back so many of the things that have been highlighted as failings or lackings during this pandemic. Nous allons continuer de travailler pour assurer que les vaccins rentrent et que tout le monde puisse se faire vacciner le plus rapidement possible. On avait promis d'avoir assez de vaccins pour tout le monde avant la fin septembre. Mathématiquement, on va y arriver avant cela, mais on a besoin que les Canadiens continuent d'aller se faire vacciner, comme j'ai fait ce matin, comme j'ai vu des centaines de personnes ici à la clinique à Ottawa. Nous devons continuer le momentum pour se faire vacciner, pour passer à travers.
Bonjour, Estelle Côté-Stroca de Radio-Canada. Monsieur Trudeau, allez-vous vous rendre sur place en Colombie-Britannique en français et en anglais, s'il vous plaît?
Okay. Je suis en train justement de parler avec mon équipe cet après-midi. J'ai eu une très bonne conversation avec le premier ministre Horgan hier. Je vais parler au maire de Lytton un peu plus tard cet après-midi. J'ai parlé au chef des Premières Nations à Lytton hier. On va continuer de regarder ce qu'on peut faire pour aider. Il n'y a rien de planifié encore. Je sais que dans l'instant, les gens sont en train de répondre à cette tragédie, à cette difficulté. Mais comme j'ai dit à nos partenaires, nous allons être là en termes de gouvernement fédéral pour être là, pour aider à rebâtir, pour aider les gens à passer à travers. I'm going to be speaking with my ministers this afternoon. We'll continue to engage with Premier Horgan and community leaders in and around Lytton. We're going to be there to support on people getting through this incredibly difficult time of loss, of devastation. We're going to be there to help rebuild. We're going to be there as partners, and I will look at when and whether the time is right to go and see them.
Selon vous, quel est le rôle des changements climatiques dans ce qu'on voit en Colombie-Britannique, encore une fois en français et en anglais, s'il vous plaît?
Je pense qu'on voit très clairement que les événements extrêmes au niveau de la météo deviennent de plus en plus fréquents. On ne peut pas passer sous silence la réalité que les changements climatiques ont des impacts dévastatrices à travers la planète. C'est pour ça que depuis bien des années, nous travaillons pour contrer les changements climatiques, pour réduire les émissions, pour investir, pour contrer les inondations et les feux de forêt. Nous sommes en train de travailler là-dessus, mais il y a encore beaucoup plus à faire. Mais pour aujourd'hui, mes réflexions sont vraiment avec la communauté, avec les gens qui ont été dévastés par ces feux. Mais je pense évidemment ça prend des réflexions sur l'adaptation, sur la mitigation des effets des changements climatiques. I think obviously today our thoughts are mostly with families that are grieving, that are facing terrible loss. But of course, we also have to reflect on the fact that extreme weather events are getting more frequent, and climate change has a significant role to play in that. We need to continue to commit ourselves every day to reducing our emissions, to showing global leadership on climate change, as we have by putting a price on pollution right across the country. There's going to be much work we need to do both on fighting climate change and on protecting people as we adapt and mitigate the impacts of climate change on our communities. That's why, in terms of investments in infrastructure, we've made billions of dollars of investments in flood mitigation, in adaptation measures to support communities facing a reality of a changing climate.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Ashley Burke, CBC News. After the military's acting chief of defense staff decided to allow the head of the Navy to stay on in his role after that controversial golf game with a former top soldier under investigation, we'd like to know, do you still have full confidence in Lieutenant General Wayne Eyre to lead the military out of the sexual misconduct crisis? Yes or no, do you have full confidence?
I have confidence in the acting chief of staff. Chief of defense staff. I know that there is an awful lot of work for the senior leadership in the military to do to regain the trust of Canadians, to regain the trust of women and men who serve in our armed forces. They deserve to be in a work environment that supports them, that is there with resources when unacceptable actions happen, but also in an environment that is transforming its culture from one that tolerates misogyny and discrimination to being one that is worthy of the extraordinary women and men who step up and choose to serve their country. There is much work still to do, and we will continue doing that work together.
And Alberta this week announced that it's going to be doubling its funding to help protect churches from vandalism and violence. But the Federal Security Infrastructure Program stopped taking applications last November. I know that there is new funding in the budget, so when will the program start taking applications again? And if I may, as a Catholic, what's your reaction that houses of your faith are being targeted for the church's role in the residential school system?
As you know, Ashley, we have put in place a security infrastructure program that partners with places of worship to be able to put in cameras and security systems to keep those institutions safe from what is unfortunately a rise of intolerance and racism and hatred that we're seeing across the country. And certainly we will continue to roll out those funds in partnership with community centers, religious institutions and others that need that protection. As I've also said, it is unacceptable and wrong that acts of vandalism and arson are being seen across the country, including against Catholic churches. One of my reflections is I understand the anger that's out there against the federal government, against institutions like the Catholic Church. It is real and it is fully understandable given the shameful history that we're all becoming more and more aware of and engaging ourselves to do better as Canadians. But I can't help but think that burning down churches is actually depriving people who are in need of grieving and healing and mourning from places where they can actually grieve and reflect and look for support. We shouldn't be lashing out at buildings that can provide solace to some of our fellow citizens, but we should be every day committing ourselves, each and every one of us, to the hard work we need to do to actually rebuild a path forward that reflects the terrible intergenerational trauma and present-day realities of suffering that we are all collectively responsible for. Évidemment, nous avons des programmes d'aide aux infrastructures religieuses et communautaires qui ont besoin d'appui en termes de sécurité. Et nous allons continuer d'être là pour travailler en partenariat avec eux. Mais c'est certain que, comme je l'ai déjà dit, d'articuler la déception et même la furie que certaines personnes ressentent de façon tout à fait légitime pour le passé et le présent que nous sommes en train de vivre, de l'articuler en mettant feu à des églises ou en s'engageant à du vandalisme, c'est pas ça la solution. Je pense particulièrement à toutes les personnes qui souffrent, qui ont mal, qui ont énormément de peine maintenant et qui pourraient profiter de leur foi pour leur donner un petit peu de répit ou d'appui dans ces moments difficiles, mais qui ne pourront pas parce que des églises ont été brûlées. Je pense que ce n'est pas la voie sur laquelle nous devons être en tant que Canadiens. Nous devons nous écouter, nous devons comprendre les émotions fortes que les gens vivent, mais nous devons faire le travail difficile de rebâtir en mieux cette société et cet avenir pour tout le monde au Canada.
Prime Minister Michael Couture of Global National, I'll ask you to answer in English and in French. Picking up on what you're talking about with walking that road to reconciliation, yesterday at a number of demonstrations, you could hear the anger and the frustration from Indigenous communities. A lot of it was pointed at you and your government, and they are saying that you have not done enough to mend the relationship with those communities. Regardless of what you listed earlier today with your accomplishments, they still fall short of campaign promises. So how much responsibility do you personally take for the anger that is being felt in Indigenous communities now?
I think the anger, as you say, is real. People have gone decades and even generations living with intergenerational trauma, with outcomes and institutional racism that has created extreme difficulties for Indigenous peoples across this country that are also the legacy of residential schools. We all have a responsibility to go, and I certainly wish we could have finished with reconciliation in 5 or 6 years. And certainly, as you point out, we have done an awful lot as a government to set down that path of reconciliation. But there is an incredible amount more to do. And it has to be done in partnership, and it has to be done first by listening and understanding the anger and the disappointment. Even as I was speaking with people who chose to wear red and white yesterday instead of orange, they were reflecting on how their fellow citizens are hurting, how we need to respect and understand that not everyone felt like celebrating yesterday. Celebrating was the last thing on the minds of many, many people in this country for whom we need to do better, that we need to approach the work of building this country back and better together. So we all have a role to play, we all have responsibilities, and that's the work that we need to do. Je pense que c'est certain quand on voit les émotions fortes que les gens ressentent, que les gens ont exprimées hier et depuis bien des jours et même des années. Leur déception sur le travail qui reste à faire. C'est certain que j'aurais voulu en finir avec le traumatisme et la réconciliation en seulement 5 ans. Mais ça ne se fait pas aussi rapidement que ça. Oui, on a fait des avancées importantes et on a fait des investissements extraordinaires, mais en même temps, il reste énormément de travail à faire. Et je pense que ce qu'on est en train de vivre maintenant, c'est un moment où tous les Canadiens reconnaissent que ce n'est pas juste à un gouvernement de tout régler ça. C'est à nous tous, en tant qu'individus, en tant que membres de famille, en tant qu'employeurs, en tant qu'employés, en tant que Canadiens, de faire partie de la solution. Puis ça va prendre du temps. Ce qui a pris des générations et même des siècles pour briser comme relation entre les Canadiens autochtones et non autochtones, ça va prendre plus que juste quelques années pour tout régler. Alors je comprends tout à fait ces émotions, je les respecte, mais je sais, par avoir eu des conversations avec des gens qui célébraient la fête du Canada, mais qui réfléchissent aussi à tout le travail que nous devons faire ensemble, qu'on a du travail à faire ensemble et qu'on va le faire.
For a follow-up, I want to come back on the military misconduct question and also ask you to repeat in French, if you don't mind. When Military Ombudsman Gregory Lick raised serious concerns about the military structure, you said that changes were coming. We just got word that the U.S. is announcing specific action on the prosecution of sexual assault in their military, removing it from the chain of command. So, given that Madame Arbour's final report could take well over a year, are you committed to releasing a plan to create an independent reporting structure this summer?
It's important to highlight that, yes, We have asked Justice Louise Arbour to lean in on what it is that we need to do as a country to ensure that the culture in our military is transformed, that the measures in place make changes. But Madame Arbour and I both absolutely agree that we can't wait a year for that final report. And that's why she will be offering up suggestions and recommendations as we move forward, as soon as they come forward on things that we can do to make sure that we are putting an end to the culture that accepts and tolerates misogyny and discrimination within our armed forces, because the women and men who serve in our armed forces deserve much better than that. Vous faites bien de souligner que Mme Arbour fait un travail extrêmement important pour établir une nouvelle approche, une nouvelle culture dans nos forces armées. Mais on est tout à fait d'accord qu'on ne peut pas attendre un an avant de commencer à agir, attendre le rapport final. C'est pour ça que Mme Arbour va continuer de partager au fur et à mesure qu'elle fait le travail avec nous des recommandations, des actions qu'on peut mettre en place immédiatement pour transformer la culture de nos forces armées, parce que la réalité, c'est que les hommes et les femmes qui servent dans nos forces armées méritent bien mieux que ce qu'ils ont maintenant en termes de culture qui les entoure dans les forces.
Hi, Prime Minister. Stephanie Taylor with the Canadian Press. And if you could answer in both French and English, that would be appreciated. When quarantine rules lift or change on Monday for fully vaccinated Canadians, is there any concern on your part that that could lead to a large number of people trying to come into Canada who aren't actually eligible? And how will the CBSA be able to handle this influx?
I think every country establishes rules around who can come into their country or not, and we have well-established systems in place that look at passports, that look at visas. That is not necessarily a concern because we have extraordinarily capable people at the borders to enforce those issues. I think it's really important that we are moving forward on allowing people who are currently allowed to come into Canada under the strict travel restrictions we've had in place for over a year to be able to do so and not have to quarantine anymore because they're double vaccinated. For others, we will be looking at how this works before we open up to next steps. But we will continue to put first and foremost the safety and security of Canadians at the top of everything we do. Because that's what Canadians expect. Je pense que oui, on va prendre des mesures à partir de lundi prochain qui vont permettre à plus de gens de voyager. Les gens qui peuvent actuellement venir au Canada, c'est-à-dire les citoyens, les résidents permanents, ceux qui ont des exemptions spéciales, vont pouvoir arriver et s'ils sont doublement vaccinés, pleinement vaccinés, ils vont pouvoir ne pas avoir à faire leur quarantaine de 2 semaines. Mais pour les prochaines étapes, on va continuer de regarder les données qu'on recueille par rapport à ce nouveau changement. On va continuer à mettre au cœur de tout ce qu'on est en train de faire la sécurité et la santé des Canadiens. Et j'ai pleinement confiance dans nos travailleurs, dans nos services frontaliers et ailleurs qui ont et remplissent très bien depuis bien longtemps la responsabilité de déterminer qui peut rentrer au Canada et qui ne peut pas rentrer au Canada.
Thank you. Canadians still don't know when we might see some movement and opening with the U.S. border. I'm wondering and hoping you can provide an update to Canadians about how talks with the United States are going on that front, and specifically given how more and more Canadians are getting vaccinated, hospitalization rates appear to be dropping and hopefully will continue that way. At this point, do you anticipate having to keep the border with the U.S. closed to non-essential travel past July 21st?
First of all, as you well know, we continue to work very closely with the United States to make sure that we're aligned in our approach and keeping both our citizens, our citizens safe while ensuring economic opportunities and trade continues uninterrupted as it has over the past year and a half, despite the border being closed to 90% of all travel. Canadians, as of Monday, will be able to start traveling again if they're fully vaccinated and not have to quarantine when they come home. That is a significant step. And Canadians are going to benefit from that. When we start reopening, so Americans and others who are fully vaccinated come into Canada, will depend on how this goes, on the data we collect, on how we're able to keep Canadians safe even as we make adjustments to the rules and as travel volumes inevitably increase. Every step of the way, we're going to make sure we're keeping Canadians safe. I know people are impatient to suddenly get back to normal, but we're not there yet. As I pointed out, the Yukon is up in the mid-70s in terms of full vaccination. And they are right now facing the largest spike in new cases that they've had since the beginning of the pandemic. Certainly, mostly amongst unvaccinated or partially vaccinated people. And that's a reminder that even as those numbers come up, as so many people are vaccinated, there is still work to be done, and we still have to be careful, and mostly we have to get up over 75% fully vaccinated, up into the 80s fully vaccinated, perhaps, according to Dr. Tan, if we're going to be safe. And we're seeing Canadians come out in record numbers. We're leading the world in terms of vaccine uptake. That's great news, and it just needs to continue so that we can be safe. And while it is continuing, our government's going to keep doing the things necessary to keep us from sliding back into another wave of this virus. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.